It's Sunday, September 14th. With the seasonal change headed toward fall, I start looking toward winter. It's just what I do, and I'm having coffee this morning, I'm looking at some of the finer details, and I started looking at the ocean temperatures, specifically into the southeast Atlantic and into the northern Gulf, along the Gulf Coast near Florida. And this may be a stretch, but it's interesting to see the temperature changes that we've seen across the northern Gulf, also the Atlantic, first because of Aaron, and also we've had some cool temperatures. I'm going to animate that in just a moment, but through September 13th, we've been relatively below average across the southeast. Now, over the last couple of days, it's warmed up, so this has been skewed. If you looked at this a couple of days ago, it was much bluer. We had some really warm water as we moved through August into parts of the western Atlantic, but look what happened as Aaron moved through. We really cooled things off. The hurricane did its job and transported that heat north toward the pole, but with a pretty strong push of some cooler air, also a couple of upper lows, we've started to see temperatures here right along the coast, also just off the Gulf Coast, cool down. Now this isn't super significant, and I think we're still going to have the risk of hurricanes as ocean water temperatures are going to still support that, but there's no denying that we've seen some cooling because of Aaron, also with that offshore flow here as we move toward September here into the northern Gulf. Temperatures are starting to get near or below average. And I want to focus on this area because this could have an impact on some of our winter storms. Look how the flow continues out of the northeast, at least maybe even the north at times. That may keep the ocean water temperatures here from warming up much more, if anything, keeping them maybe a tad below average. But how would this impact winter storms and maybe our winter? I think there's two things to consider. Number one, if the ocean is cooler, maybe your storms won't be as strong because you don't get a tight thermal gradient. And two, if the Gulf is cooler than average, or maybe even parts of the eastern Atlantic, which I think we have to watch. Again, this is just some subtle changes I've seen in the last couple of days. Does that mean less heat is transported north or northwest with any big storms that move through? Or sometimes high pressure will push off the east coast, you'll develop flow off the Gulf, or sometimes you'll pull air in off the ocean. Maybe something worth considering. And with all of the clouds, I don't think the ocean is going to warm up much here off the southeast coast with this upper low that's continuing to spin here. And I'll be honest, I do not like winter forecasting this far out. It's just absolutely madness. But this isn't a winter weather outlook, just a few pieces that I'm looking at as the seasons change. But today, we're looking at severe weather possible across the central plains. We're still watching the tropics. I showed you all that heat that's still in the ocean, and the National Hurricane Center says we're likely going to see something develop here. The good news is I was looking at the long-range European ensemble guidance, and the idea is that it will likely move out to sea. Now, here's this upper low and its associated surface low that's keeping it cool and damp right near the coast as we head through this week. Otherwise, let's look into the tropics. Here comes what would develop, and most of the guidance has this thing moving north. Bermuda needs to watch this, but East Coast, I don't think it's headed here. That's as of this morning, Sunday the 14th. Severe weather looking more and more likely today, especially across North Dakota. Some of these storms up into this region could get really strong. A lot of wind shear. The tornado risk isn't off the charts, but I'd say it's went up a little bit, especially across North Dakota and parts of northern South Dakota, and that extends all the way down into Kansas. So some of these storms could get really strong, and even down into Texas too, and parts of Oklahoma. Well, let's look at the future radar, and we'll time these storms out. Through the afternoon, we'll have showers going back across the Dakotas and Nebraska, but some of these storms will start to pulse up across southern Nebraska, and then we'll get another line way out ahead of our system into parts of eastern South Dakota, eastern Nebraska, and then parts of north and east Kansas, I should say. We'll also see a few storms across Missouri, Illinois, down into Arkansas. Some of these could really get strong too, but the best chance for severe weather likely will be in this region, especially up near the Canadian border, as some of these storms get really strong and you get that twist in the atmosphere. You can see how everything is spinning around this piece of energy. Tornadoes possible, damaging winds, some hail, and then as we head into the overnight hours, things calm down. And again, we did deal with some storms also a little bit further to the south. You saw them moving through Kansas, into parts of Texas, down into just to the south of Lubbock. Some of these storms could get strong with some heavy rain, some big downpours. So flash flooding, always a concern anytime you get storms that are going to be this strong. Heading into Monday, everything lifts to the north, at least the strongest piece of energy does. We'll see sort of lingering effects as we head into the afternoon with a few showers and storms across Missouri, Iowa, down into Arkansas. Another hot day as we move through Sunday. Cooler temperatures behind our system as we head into Monday, at least for parts of South Dakota, North Dakota, but it stays hot across the south, especially the southern plains, down into Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, 90s here. That heat starts to spread north and east up towards Wisconsin, even into Michigan as we head toward Wednesday and Thursday. Temperatures climbing back up into the 80s. And then some cooler weather tries to work in as we head into Thursday. Numbers falling back across Oklahoma, Kansas, back into the 70s and 60s for high temperatures. Further to the east, we've talked about these storms across southern Illinois, parts of Missouri, into Arkansas, but we'll also be dealing with a few showers right near the coast. And those rain chances increase, especially from eastern North Carolina, eastern Virginia, Maryland, up into Delaware, back toward D.C., into parts of West Virginia eventually as we head toward Tuesday and Wednesday. As this low gets a little bit closer, it could bring some really heavy rain for southeast Virginia into the Delmarva. And look at this flow right here. That is right off the Atlantic, just pushing into the mid-Atlantic as we get into Tuesday and into Wednesday. So this to me looks cool and damp, and especially as we get a little bit further to the north, cooler conditions move in as we deal with more clouds across New Jersey. The Jersey Shore looking a little bit damp. And I think with this type of setup, you have to watch for some high surf. I think it's a little too early to talk about coastal flooding, but I think it's on the table with this type of flow. Anytime you get something coming off the ocean like this, pay attention. Here's a look at your temperatures. It's also going to be cool where the air is coming in off of the ocean. A little bit warmer to the west. That's going to be the trend. The northeast stays relatively cool heading into Monday. Highs in the 70s from upstate New York into Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. Warmer, though, across southwest PA, so up towards Pittsburgh, back towards Columbus, Cincinnati, climbing well into the 80s. There's that low spinning off the east coast, so some cooler temperatures starting to build in as we deal with more cloud cover, especially from Roanoke, Lynchburg, down into the Piedmont and into the coastal plain of North Carolina and Virginia. Cool, damp weather right here in the central Appalachians. Highs as we get into Wednesday, especially with that rain, may really be held back across this region under a lot of low clouds and rain. Pop out of the rain, you pop up into the 80s and 90s. So from Nashville, further to the west towards Memphis, back into Missouri, Arkansas, it's going to be hot. Let's go west. We'll talk about what's happening here. Showers moving through the Pacific Northwest. Those move inland as we head into Monday. We'll deal with showers across Montana. We dry out across the Pacific Northwest. We also start to heat up across the Southwest as we move through this week. Temperatures in the deserts get back over 100 easily. We start to develop a heat low. And then I think the trend has been, as we develop that low, we start to bring the monsoon in. Moisture increases, and so will the showers and storms. Here's a look at your temperatures on Sunday. Warm, especially across the Southwest. The Northwest, a little bit cooler with that precipitation. We will see warmer temperatures, I think, as we head into Monday, just with more sunshine, especially the further south you go. The Central Valley of California is really going to heat up as we head now into Tuesday. So we're looking at triple digits trying to return here, and we're back up into the 80s across eastern Oregon and Washington and into the Pacific Northwest too. 80s return, especially into the lower elevations and into Alaska. A lot of folks chiming in, they're watching in Alaska, and so am I. This is the time of year when I watch these storms because as we lay our snowpack, we start to develop the idea that it could get colder maybe a little bit earlier. But a big storm moving in this week. We're going to be dealing with wind, rain all along the coastal areas of southern Alaska. And then as we head into Monday, Tuesday, into Wednesday, another system moves out of the Aleutians and it starts to lift toward Alaska. So more disturbed weather. I think it's going to be cloudy. We're starting to see that transition, and then I think this is pretty wild. Watch this low swing around our main low and start to drop some snow into the Northwest Territories as we head into next week. That could really start to build that snowpack up, and as we start to see colder temperatures, winter isn't too far away, my friends. And this is not unusual to see snow here into the Northwest Territories and also the North Slope.